Sophie Cunningham just exposed something about the WNBA that nobody's talking about, and what she revealed might change everything you thought you knew about how professional female athletes are treated. Before hitting like and subscribing for more WNBA insider stories, you need to hear what Sophie just revealed from her hospital bed that has the entire league shaking. Just weeks ago, Sophie Cunningham was carried off the court with a torn MCL, ending her season in the most devastating way possible. But while recovering from this career-threatening injury, Sophie decided to pull back the curtain on something the WNBA has been hiding for years. The 28-year-old guard recently sat down with Bravo's Wes Wilson and exposed the shocking differences between how the Indiana Fever and Phoenix Mercury treat their players. And trust me, what she revealed will make your jaw drop. Sophie didn't hold back when she described living rent-free at 28 years old. That's right, the Indiana Fever covers her entire housing situation, and she's basically living expense-free besides her phone and car payments. But here's where it gets interesting. Not all teams are created equal in the WNBA, and Sophie knows this firsthand after spending 6 years with the Phoenix Mercury before being traded to Indiana in February of 2025. The way teams handle player housing is absolutely wild. When Sophie got traded from Phoenix to Indiana, she had months to prepare, which is rare in professional sports. Usually players get the call and have to pack up their entire lives within days. But the team pays for everything: shipping your car, moving your belongings, even your flight to the new city. Sophie revealed that each team offers players two options: live in team-provided housing completely rent-free, or take a monthly stipend if you want to find your own place. But wait, it gets crazier. The quality of this housing varies dramatically between teams. Sophie admitted that in her last 2 years with Phoenix, they really stepped up their game with housing. The Mercury put players in the nicest places available, and now with Indiana, she says the Fever really takes care of their players too. But Sophie lets slip something huge. There are some teams in the league that are, in her words, not great when it comes to housing their players. Think about what this means. Some WNBA players are living in luxury apartments in downtown areas, while others might be stuck in big accommodations on the outskirts of town. This isn't just about comfort, it's about respect and how much teams value their players. Sophie even mentioned that from her apartment in Indianapolis, she can literally see Lucas Oil Stadium, home of the NFL's Colts. That's prime real estate right there. The housing conversation led Sophie to reveal something else nobody expected. When asked about buying versus renting, she dropped a bombshell about how players actually make these decisions. According to Sophie, if you're on a 2-year contract, you might consider buying, but 3 years is when you really feel comfortable investing in property. She explained that whether players buy depends on multiple factors. Are you married? Do you have a family? Do you have pets? All these things come into play when deciding whether to take the team housing or go out on your own. But here's what really shocked fans. Sophie revealed that the stipend amount actually varies by market. In expensive cities like New York, players get around $2,583 per month in housing stipend for 2024, while in Atlanta, it's only $1,263. That's more than double the difference. And these amounts are locked into the current CBA through 2027 with only small annual increases. Imagine trying to find decent housing in San Francisco or New York on that budget. The conversation took an unexpected turn when Sophie started talking about team loyalty and city allegiance. Despite living in Indianapolis and playing for the Fever, Sophie made it crystal clear she will never abandon her Kansas City Chiefs. She literally said she won't even look at the Colts. But then she revealed something that shows her character. While she'll always be Chiefs at heart, she's willing to support Indianapolis teams like the Pacers to show appreciation for the fans who support her. This might seem like a small thing, but it reveals a massive divide in how players approach their temporary homes. Sophie explained that when she was in Phoenix, she became a Diamondbacks fan, a Cardinals fan, and even a Coyotes fan before they moved. She believes in indulging herself in whatever city she's in, becoming part of the community. Compare that to someone like Jason Tatum, who wears St. Louis Cardinals gear everywhere despite playing for Boston. There's no right or wrong answer, but it shows how complex these relationships between players and cities really are. Sophie even admitted something hilarious. When she went to Arizona Cardinals games, she spent the whole time comparing everything to how much better Arrowhead Stadium is. The tailgating, the fans, the atmosphere, nothing compared to Kansas City in her mind. That's the kind of loyalty you can't buy, and it shows how deeply these players remain connected to their roots, even while building new lives in different cities. But let's get back to the housing situation, because what Sophie revealed next is absolutely insane. The entire WNBA housing system only covers players during the regular season and playoffs. That means from May to mid-September, or October if you make the playoffs. So what happens the rest of the year? Players are on their own unless they sign special team marketing agreements that keep them in the market doing promotional work. This is why so many WNBA players used to go overseas in the offseason. They literally had no housing coverage for half the year. Sophie's revelations come at a critical time. The WNBA Players Association just announced they're opting out of the current collective bargaining agreement, meaning everything about player treatment, including housing, is about to be renegotiated. Players are demanding revenue sharing that actually reflects their value to the league. Right now, WNBA players get less than 10% of total league revenue and salaries, while NBA players get around 50%. That's a massive gap that needs to be addressed. The timing couldn't be more important. The WNBA just signed a $2.2 billion media deal, attendance is at record highs, and franchise values are skyrocketing. Teams that sold for $10 million a few years ago are now worth over $100 million, yet players like rookie Angel Reese made just $73,439 this season, while living in one of America's most expensive cities. Sophie's injury situation adds another layer to this story. She tore her MCL on August 17th against the Connecticut Sun, ending what was shaping up to be her best season yet. She was averaging 8.6 points per game and shooting 43.2% from three-point range. Her injury is just one in a devastating string of injuries for the Fever. Caitlin Clark has been out since July 15th with a groin injury. Sydney Colson tore her ACL and Ari McDonald broke her foot. The Fever went from championship contenders to barely holding on to a playoff spot. What makes Sophie's situation even more compelling is how she got to Indiana in the first place. She was part of a massive 4-team trade in February 2025 involving the Fever, Mercury, Connecticut Sun, and Dallas Wings. The Fever specifically targeted her, with general manager Amber Cox saying Sophie was a perfect fit for their style of play. They called her a fierce competitor who works incredibly hard on both ends of the floor and one of the best shooters in the league. But here's something nobody's talking about. Sophie's sister Lindsay went nuclear on social media after Sophie's injury, calling out the WNBA for poor officiating. She wrote that the league should focus less on fining players for commenting on bad officiating and more on hiring officials who can protect athletes. The post went viral, highlighting another major issue in the WNBA, player safety and the quality of officiating. The housing revelations also expose a bigger problem in women's professional basketball. While NBA players fly on private jets and stay in 5-star hotels, WNBA players only recently got upgraded from coach to premium economy flights. The new CBA in 2020 finally guaranteed individual hotel rooms for players. Before that, players had to share rooms on the road like they were still in college. Can you imagine LeBron James sharing a hotel room with a teammate? Sophie's comments about team housing quality differences between franchises reveal an uncomfortable truth. Some teams are clearly more committed to their players' well-being than others. She praised both Phoenix and Indiana for stepping up in recent years, but her comment about some teams being not great speaks volumes. In a league with only 12 teams, that means potentially 25% or more of WNBA players might be living in substandard conditions. The injury crisis at Indiana makes Sophie's housing revelations even more poignant. While she's recovering from a torn MCL and team-provided housing, she's watching her team struggle without her, Caitlin Clark, and multiple other guards. The Fever signed Shea Petty to a 7-day hardship contract just to have enough players to field a team. Meanwhile, Sophie's expected to make a full recovery, but her 2025 season is over and she'll need that team housing through her rehabilitation. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because what's happening with the WNBA's next CBA negotiations will affect every single player in the league, including superstars like Caitlin Clark and rising stars like Angel Reese. What Sophie revealed about the housing stipend amounts is particularly shocking when you consider the cost of living in different WNBA markets. The Las Vegas Aces players recently got $100,000 sponsorships from the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, partly because the housing stipend doesn't come close to covering actual housing costs in Vegas. The Golden State Valkyries are about to face the same problem when they start playing in the Bay Area in 2025. How are players supposed to find housing in San Francisco on $2,600 a month? The conversation about contract length and buying property reveals another hidden challenge. Sophie said 3 years is comfortable for buying a house, but most WNBA contracts are only 1 or 2 years. Players live in constant uncertainty about where they'll be next season. Sophie herself was traded traded after 6 years in Phoenix. That's 6 years of building a life, making friends, becoming part of a community, then suddenly you're starting over in Indianapolis. Sophie's loyalty to the Kansas City Chiefs while playing in Indianapolis highlights the emotional complexity of professional sports. These players aren't just assets to be moved around. They're people with deep connections to their hometowns and favorite teams. Sophie grew up in Columbia, Missouri, where, as she mentioned, you get to pick your teams. She chose the Chiefs, and that loyalty runs so deep she won't even consider supporting the Colts, even though she lives in Indy and can see their stadium from her apartment. But Sophie also shows incredible professionalism by supporting the Pacers and being willing to attend Colts games to connect with the same fans who support her on the basketball court. She understands that being a professional athlete means being part of the community, even if your heart belongs somewhere else. That's the kind of maturity and perspective that makes Sophie such a valuable veteran presence on a young Fever team. The fact that Sophie is living expense-free except for her phone and car at 28 years old might sound amazing, but it also reveals how different WNBA players' lives are from what fans might expect. These are professional athletes at the highest level of women's basketball, yet they're living like college students in some ways, dependent on their teams for basic necessities like housing. Sophie's revelation that teams pay for everything when players get traded, shipping, moving expenses, travel, sounds generous until you realize this is the bare minimum for asking someone to uproot their entire life with sometimes just days of notice. Sophie was lucky to have months to prepare for her move from Phoenix to Indiana, but that's not the norm. Most players get a phone call and have to be in a new city within 72 hours. The housing situation becomes even more complex for players with families. The CBA provides 2-bedroom apartments for players with children, and there's a $5,000 annual childcare stipend. But imagine trying to move your kids to a new school system every time you get traded. Imagine finding childcare in a new city where you don't know anyone. These are challenges male athletes face too, but with much more financial resources to throw at the problem. Sophie's injury and the Fever's overall injury crisis this season highlight another aspect of the housing situation. When players are injured, they still need that housing to rehab and recover. Sophie will be in Indianapolis rehabbing her torn MCL, living in team housing, trying to get healthy for 2026. But what if she gets traded in the offseason? She'll have spent months rehabbing in Indy only to start over somewhere else. The differences in how teams treat their players, as Sophie revealed, could become a major factor in free agency decisions. Players talk to each other. They know which teams provide the nicest housing, which cities have the best stipends, which organizations truly invest in their players' well-being. Sophie's praise for both Phoenix and Indiana suggests these teams understand that treating players well is a competitive advantage. As the WNBA prepares for expansion with teams in Portland and Toronto coming in 2026, and goals to reach 16 teams by 2028, the housing issue will only become more complex. These new teams will need to compete for free agents, and offering superior housing could be a key recruiting tool. The Golden State Valkyrie, starting in 2025, will face immediate challenges given the Bay Area's notoriously high cost of living. Sophie's story also reveals the human side of professional sports that fans rarely see. Behind every trade, every injury, every contract negotiation, there's a person trying to build a life while dealing with constant uncertainty. Sophie's managed to find stability and success in Indiana after 6 years in Phoenix, but her season-ending injury reminds us how fragile these careers can be. The fact that Sophie chose to share these details while recovering from a major injury shows her commitment to transparency and improving conditions for future players. She's using her platform and her experience to shed light on issues that affect every player in the league, from superstars to rookies trying to make a roster. As we wrap up, remember that Sophie Cunningham's revelations about WNBA housing are just the tip of the iceberg. With CBA negotiations ongoing and players demanding their fair share of the league's growing revenue, everything about how WNBA players are treated could change in the next year. The league is at a crossroads, and players like Sophie are making sure their voices are heard. The conversation Sophie had about living rent-free might seem like a positive, but it actually reveals how far the WNBA still has to go. These are professional athletes generating millions in revenue, selling out arenas, and driving record television ratings. They deserve more than just free apartment rentals and economy plus flights. They deserve to be treated like the professionals they are. Sophie Cunningham's courage in speaking out, especially while dealing with a devastating injury, shows why she's become such a fan favorite in Indiana. She's not not just a fierce competitor on the court, she's a voice for change off it. As the WNBA continues to grow and evolve, players like Sophie will be crucial in ensuring that growth benefits everyone, not just team owners and television networks. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay updated on all the latest WNBA news and revelations. The next few months will be crucial for the future of women's professional basketball, and you won't want to miss a single development. Comment below what you think about Sophie's revelations and whether you believe WNBA players deserve better treatment. Until next time, keep supporting women's basketball.